Got enough cushions.
The cushions are definitely not aesthetically pleasing.
My fly done. Yep.
Yep.
We're all good.
Done. Yep.
All right, should we do it?
All systems go. Let's go.
Hello, everybody. Episode 3 of Skip the Beat, your weekly podcast, which is loosely based on music. Thank you for giving us your ears for episode 1 and 2. We're back again. Katie's here. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing well. Doing well.
I've had an unexpected case of hives over the weekend. Maybe an allergic reaction to something I ate or touched. Unsure.
You've been at my house for about an hour and I'm only learning about this now.
You don't always share your hive news straight up. Sometimes you keep it in the pocket.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like that Kath and Kim, jumping off topic straight away, the Kath and Kim episode where Sharon Strzelecki is like, and Kim goes to Sharon, "You've got hives." And she goes, "They are not hives, Kim, they're welts." Anyway, back on. How's your week been?
Yeah, so I mean, other than the hives, pretty good. Pretty good. These weeks roll around really quickly when you're doing a weekly podcast, don't they, Matt?
They do.
Yeah.
Originally, we were talking about, doing a fortnightly one?
Yeah. And
which means we'd only be meeting tonight to do episode 2. But here we are.
Here we are on episode 3 already.
And loving life.
Just slamming them out.
Absolutely.
Happy days. No, I am very happy. So nothing else for you to report about how you've been? You're well?
Well, yes. Everyone in our immediate family has thankfully been well. The extended family, my parents have, for the first time in the 4.5 years that COVID's been around, it got them both in the same week for the very first time. And their comments made sense when they said, this is like, they thought it was a flu. Mm-hmm. I'm like, but this is nothing like we've ever experienced before. I'm like, well, there we go. It's almost like COVID's a real thing.
Welcome to what we've all experienced.
Yeah,
some of us a few times.
Well wishes, because I know they listen to the pod. So, yeah, well wishes. I know my dad's almost back on his feet. Hopefully my mum is very close to being back on her feet as well. But yes, in this family, thankfully, we're all good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do hope for speedy recoveries there, because the first time I had the COVID, it was not a fun time. So I'm hoping that they've got a slightly lesser experience, but it does sound like they've been a bit slammed.
Oh, yeah, I think they're hit by a truck, both of them.
Yeah. Well, I might jump straight into some apologies and a bit of a recap. And to be honest, I've got 3 or 4 things on my list. And at this point, they're all things that I need to apologise for. So
should I just... honest?
Should I just jump straight into them? Okay, one thing that I need to apologise for, and I've never felt so middle-aged in my life as I was listening to it back, right at the end of last week's podcast, I asked everyone to subscribe to our podcast in their favourite listening app. They actually need to follow our podcast in the app. That's how that works. They need to follow the podcast in their listening app so that it then downloads automatically for you.
You get a bit of relief, I think, because you need to subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Oh, there you go. If you want to watch on the YouTube. I wasn't too far off.
I think you did well.
Okay, I'm 50% there. Okay. So maybe I should have said please subscribe and follow. So that's just my first. Just a little technical apology for me. I am trying to get much better at all of this technical stuff. It isn't easy for me, but I'm doing the very best that I can. Another really weird thing that I did was I introduced a new segment last week called Remember That Time. And for some reason, when I was introducing that segment, I felt the need to tell everyone that you and I didn't come up with the phrase "remember that time." that you and I didn't invent the phrase "remember that time."
Didn't string those words together for the first time.
Yeah, I just felt the need, because in case anyone was thinking, oh gosh, that's clever that they've put those 3 words together in a little sentence. That's just English. That's what we decided when we were editing. That's just the English language. That was a little thing. And then the other thing, I haven't done an count yet. I think I promised that I would have an count up and running for this week. But what threw me off my game a little bit is that a frequent listener to the pod a frequent listener to the pod made the suggestion that we might need to do an count on me as well as on you.
Listening back, it was quite, and we'll have to listen to this now afterwards. It was pretty funny after you spoke about it last week, like the next couple of sentences.
It was like contagious.
Yeah.
I've gone into a hole. And so I'm going to have to think about that, up my game, add myself to the stats, and then let's see how we look next week when we do that. So that's just another little apology from me as well. It seems as though I caught a little bit of the ums last week as well. I wanted to check in with you. Did you think that you needed to apologise for pun of the week?
Well, I was going to bring that up with you earlier, and I've got this little book here because we did get some feedback. And now this is going to lead into a question I'm going to ask as well, and we don't have to come up with the answer now. Maybe our listeners can help us come up with the answer to this. But before we get to that, we got some feedback.
Specifically about pun of the week, was it?
Specifically about pun of the week.
I haven't verified that any of this is authentic feedback, PS. This is all Matthew Green bringing this to the table.
We had listener Isaac comment on our YouTube saying, I'm going to need some more musical puns, Matt. So there's one.
I don't know who this shady Isaac character is.
And then, no, you wouldn't know him at all. And then listener Scott also said, I think on our Instagram, said, for the record, 1 vote yes to music pun of the week. It's a highlight.
Oh, there we go.
So I think just straight up from the 8 listeners that we have, we've got 2 that love it. So we're running a 25% success rate first week in.
One might also suggest from those stats that 75% of our listeners weren't really that into it. So I'm not sure how to read those stats. We also said we didn't
really want feedback, but we'll just take the bits we need, hey? Yeah. We've got another one tonight, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. And we'll just get more feedback again.
We will. And Isaac and Scott, we don't need to hear from you again. You've had your say. So
we know that you're a yes.
Maybe we let some other people have a bit of a say this week, hey?
But on that, the listeners,
yes.
I feel we need to, and we might need your help, listeners, to come up with this, is what are we going to call our listeners? It's Skip the Beat, a podcast loosely based on music. Now, our logo, a little kangaroo, Skippy the kangaroo, a whole thing. We haven't spoken about why the word skip was even suggested in the first place. It is a nickname that I've been called for many, many years. So I don't know whether are we calling them the Joeys? Are we calling them the Pouchies? If it's something about Pouchies I love.
There's something about Pouchies I hate. But I don't know.
But maybe if you've got some suggestions. We haven't got a website or form just yet, but actually let's do a post.
Okay.
One of the posts we will do, so it's up by the time we release season 3, head to our Instagram and our Facebook and see the post where we've done some type of poll to get your suggestions on what, well, it won't be a poll, it'll be suggestions on what we should call our listeners.
I bet Isaac and Scott both vote for Pouchies. That's...
I like it.
I feel like I've lost those guys completely. They're firmly in Camp Matt.
So let us know. But we need to, coming up with something for our listeners. You're the listeners. You tell us what you want to be called.
Yeah, perfect. Sounds good. So regular segment for us again, just a quick check-in with each other on what our musical week has looked like. So we're having a chat about this segment before we started recording tonight, thinking that this segment is going to be sometimes about a big 20-minute talk about Missy Higgins, and sometimes it'll be about something else, and sometimes it'll just be about what we've done ourselves. We're going to chuck them all in together. So hit me with what has inspired you musically this week, or what have you done yourself musically this week?
Well, I wanted to talk about, I don't know how many people saw this, but late last, or probably mid last week, there was a post, I don't know if you saw it too, the whole Ballpark Music First Lime Cordial saga that hit the socials. You weren't across that?
I was not.
So it started with a post from Ballpark Music and bringing to the surface that Lime Cordial, had been potentially stealing songs or song ideas from Ballpark Music.
Okay.
And when I first saw the post, I was in the studio on that day with Nathaniel, and we're like, this surely they wouldn't. They can't. No, you would not do this, surely. It wasn't until we saw Lime Cordiale's reply where they're walking as if they could be anywhere on their phone saying, I'm not really sure what Ballpark are even meaning by this. No one's picking up their phone. We certainly haven't. And it sort of twigged in my brain. Now, this could be some extremely clever marketing that they're doing to do some type of collab. And I thought it was a collab. I didn't think they are. The end result is they're doing a tour together and like a co-headline tour. But I thought this is brilliant. It was brilliant marketing in the end because it got obviously a lot of people on their toes going, what on earth is happening here? This is insane. This can't be happening. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they meet in a room and they did a great social post of they've got this mediator trying to sort it all out. And it's very, very well done. So Ballpark Music, Lime Cordiale, they're doing a tour together later this year. They're at the River Stage in October, and I really, really want to go because, they're two great bands. So, yes, that's basically about the highlight of my week that I get was just getting involved in that and going, this surely can't be happening. But also, brilliant marketing. It's not something that's tragically going to hit the music.
Not going to decimate the Australian music scene.
And if you don't know who Ballpark Music are and Lime Cordiale are, then you should. Go and listen to them. Two fantastic Australian bands. And I haven't seen Lime Cordiale live yet. I've seen Ballpark a few times. But yes, that's why I need to go.
Yeah,
River Stage in October.
I've seen Ballpark too, but yet I haven't listened to a lot of Lime Cordiale, but I do know that I love them dearly.
They're great.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Speaking of great Australian music, we picked up some tickets this week. In a couple of weeks' time, Matt and I and some other friends of ours will be heading to see George, one of my absolutely favourite bands from the 90s, Brisbane-based band. I think we joked about being similar to Katie and Tyrone Noonan in episode 1.
I think so.
A huge stretch indeed
miles apart
to put our name anywhere near theirs. Katie Noonan, in my opinion, one of the best Australian voices, women's voices, just tidy vocals. So we're going to see them at the Zoo. They're singing their multi-platinum album Polyserena from beginning to end.
So good.
And it will be one of the last nights that the Zoo in Brisbane is open.
Unless it's a big publicity stunt and someone's in the wings waiting to buy it.
That's right. We can only hope. It is one of the hottest venues in Brisbane. I think it's a bit better now than it was back in the day, but I've had some sweaty nights watching live music.
I think the air conditioning that they've got in there does help by maybe 2 degrees.
Yeah, so on a 40-degree Brisbane summer day, it's quite lovely in there. And I think a segment down the track might be what are some of our favourite gigs at the Zoo when that venue if it does wrap up.
We've got some stories.
We got a few great stories that come to mind for me of wonderful gigs we've seen there. So that was a highlight for me, buying that ticket, knowing that that's coming up. Another highlight for me was I did a big deep dive this week into Billie Eilish's new album called Hit Me Hard and Soft. Hard and soft or soft and hard? Hard and soft. Released a couple of weeks ago, and I did do a listen through the day it came out, but I did a big deep dive into it this week. One of my favourite artists, even though we're in generations apart, I do have tickets to go and see her. It's not until next year, though, that tour, but it will be pretty iconic, I think. Great album if you're into that sort of thing. I loved on the album that we see her use her voice a bit differently than we have in past albums. So lots of different tonal stuff happening, which I dig quite a bit.
Nice. I was going to say I haven't listened to that album yet. It's on my when a new album comes out, I like to not just listen to it whenever I can, but I like to be able to do it when I can sit down and I can concentrate on it and pay particular attention to it. So recommendation from you is that on my to-do list this week is to
it should be
find
an
hour of my time to knuckle down and listen because I do love her stuff. And I was upset I missed her in Brisbane last year, I think, when she was here. So maybe I need to look at tickets to go see her. Entertainment Centre again?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not sold out for you. It was a bit of a Taylor Swift affair getting into the waiting room to buy tickets the day they came out, but I'm not sure. Haven't checked.
Okay.
Haven't checked.
Things for me to look into.
Yeah, for sure. Any personal musical highlights? Anything you've been doing musically this week that aside from the hustle, the weekly hustle?
The hustle has been hard. Good news is that we are about 30 minutes, so in Matt and Nathaniel time, probably 2 hours away from finishing the second single with our vocal recording and editing, so that we can send 2 singles away to be mixed by our mix engineer. So that has been a huge relief and weight off our shoulders, because it'll be then out of our lives into the hands of our producers and mix engineers to hopefully create some magic and make us sound really good is the aim.
Do you have any proposed release dates for said singles?
Yeah, well, nothing we've got locked in, but with just our team that we're working with, we're really hoping that we can get a single released in mid to late July.
Cool.
And also another one, if everything goes to plan, another one probably around the mid-October.
Okay.
So just before our Brisbane-Sydney show.
I was going to say tour time.
Just before Melbourne and Adelaide time.
Yep.
And ticket sales are going well. We've sold a handful more tickets, which is just crazy. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. If anyone's listening that has bought a ticket, thank you. Can't wait to play some live music again. It's been too long. I'm going to have to get rehearsals underway in the next couple of weeks, because we've got to put a show together.
You do, and all new visuals and stuff, I'm assuming, or
yes, there'll be some
new, some old.
Yeah, new set list. We've got a new cover that we're looking to do. We always like to do at least one cover in our set, but because we've got a bunch of new songs, we're now thinking, well, if we're going to play an hour set, we might have to start looking at 1 or 2 songs we don't do.
Yeah,
and that's going to be hard, because I really, really love playing all our tracks. So a good position to finally be in, that we've written enough songs and release enough songs that we can't just play them all in a set.
So many songs, so little time. What does one do? We might have to put it out to the Pouchies and see if they've got an opinion. Maybe so.
Maybe.
Let's see. I don't have any super musical highlights myself this week. Personally, last week I looked at my flute.
Yes.
And it took me a good bit of time to recover from that physical labour. This week, progress on my one-woman show. I wrote a little bit, part of the one-woman show. It's a strange thing. We'll get to know a bit more about it, but it's got singing, it's got some comedy, it's got some storytelling, it's got some flute, which we have alluded to in previous pod episodes. Another part of the show is that it's weirdly got like a bit of slam poetry right in the middle of it.
It does.
So my bit of work this week was I actually I did a little bit more work up on that. So a bit more, it's got a bit more meat in that section now. So slowly chipping away at a few things.
I can't wait to get the update. And yes, I know the musical, because the one-woman show, because we've worked together on all the tunes for it, and we've done some practice run-throughs and everything of what it might be. And it's, when Katie does release this, it's going to be really, really good. There's, as I've said right from the start of it, when we was doing this podcast, Katie and I have known each other for many, many years, and she's one of my closest friends, and you will get to understand and know the raw personal life of Katie over the last probably 5 to 10 years, and it's a really good story. Well, it's your story, but you've done it you've written it in a really artistically brilliant way, in my opinion. So it's going to be good to finalize it and get to perform it. Yeah,
that is super kind of you. And obviously none of that would have happened without a massive amount of input from you also. Matthew wrote all of the music to all of the songs. And also I'd have to say some of my favourite comedic moments, Matthew had a heavy hand in a little workshopping some ideas with me. So it will be something that we perform together one day.
At some point.
Unless Alta Falls gets really, really famous too quickly, and I might not be able to afford to have him on my team anymore. But I
think we've got some time.
We've got a bit of time up our sleeves. So that's me. That's music for me this week, which I think it rolls into the next thing. Am I leading the next thing on the whiteboard as well?
You are, and you said you had a little surprise for me, and that I had to do something with this little pad that's in front of me.
Yeah, you're not the only one who gets to have a drumstick prop in this podcast anymore. You made fun of me last week because you introduced a new segment and you'd put some fancy sounds on your little fancy drum pad here, and I just wanted to put it out there that you're not the only one that can bring fancy things to the pod.
I look forward to what this is.
And well, you should, because it's really bloody good. So Remember That Time was a bit of well, I'm not going to say it was a hit because we didn't get any feedback on that particular segment, only on Matt's Pun of the Week. But Matt and I loved doing it because basically we just love having a bit of a chuckle about our past. So I would like for us now to move into Remember That Time. Magical.
Now, you obviously had your little wind chime block at home and recorded that and everything, mixed it down.
I did, EQ'd it, bounced it, brought it here when you weren't here, squirreled it into the drum pad.
Yep. Okay.
It sounds exactly like something that I have the skill set to do.
I love it. Remember That Time. It's there. Done.
Yeah. Yep. So that very that just changed the tone as we go into Remember That Time, and I wanted to share my Remember That Time, and it was the one that I thought of in the middle of when we were trying to do it last week, and I had a bit of a breakdown. And then I made the mistake of sharing it with Matt after we finished recording because it was too funny in my brain. But it's basically it's a gig that Matt and I played, and it was with our friends Jason and Woody. So Jason was playing the drums, and our friend Woody, a very good bass player, was playing the bass. And Jason had actually organised the gig. So we'd never done music with Jason before ever. He had organised the gig, and from my memory, it was a decently paid gig as well.
I believe so.
Yeah, it was at a primary school fete on the main stage on an oval. Keyword
there, primary school.
Primary school fete. And our mate Jason, I think in isolation, maybe with Woody, had come up with the set list.
The set list, yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't a huge set. Like, I think we played just a handful of songs.
Like 6 songs, 5 or 6 songs?
Yeah, I was going to say 6 as well. And I honestly, Matthew will probably remember what all of the songs are, but my overwhelming memory of this gig is that I just decided that I knew 6 songs and didn't realise until we started playing the gig that I did not know those 6 songs at all. We had some rehearsals and I sort of knew I was a bit rough in rehearsal and I'd better go away and listen to them. And I don't know what happened. I've never in my life been so irresponsible when I'm getting paid to do something as I was. But my overwhelming memory was, I think the first couple of songs went okay. And then we hit April Sun in Cuba.
Perfect primary school fete song.
Yeah, that's right, for all the youngsters out there. And all the guys start playing the music, and I just stood there and had absolutely no idea.
For about 48 bars, we're going, didn't. Well, I'm thinking, okay, Wallace, okay, anytime you're ready.
Did you start singing
I think
eventually?
So. And from memory, I had it, because it was in a key that suited your vocals. I had to sing, the thing I can't remember, I had to sing really low or really high.
I bet you split the difference and did a bit of both. I bet you did it a bit like Living on a Prayer.
Yeah, probably.
Back in the day.
The other song I remember from that fete, I can't remember all of them. I do remember we did Holy Grail.
Oh, yes.
And just, again, perfect primary school fete song.
Yeah.
But yes, well done. Great memory.
And eventually I recognised the chorus and I jumped in as though I was nailing that song. And yeah, just incredibly, incredibly embarrassing.
Good times.
Yeah. Did you have something you'd like to share? Do you want me to
reckon
cue you in with a memory?
Again. Back in time.
Take us back. Take us back. What are you sharing with us today?
So I'll be very, very quick. So we've been speaking a lot about seeing Missy. Mm-hmm. We saw Missy in probably 2006. I want to say that was the year. Mm-hmm. At the Tivoli.
Yep, I remember it well.
And it was a great, great gig. So much so that she was playing her song. Was it They Weren't There? Is that the song she was playing? The and so it finishes the very end. You breathed infinity into my world. That song.
Yep. Out on a little verse.
And they finish the chorus, and it was just her and her piano. Mm-hmm. And she finished. It was dead silent, absolute dead silence.
It was. I can confirm.
And she finishes the end of the first chorus, and then has this probably 5-second break of just the emotion in the room. You could feel it. It was not. You could hear a pin drop. And for some reason, without thinking, I think because we know I have a problem with whispering. I have to really concentrate to whisper. So without
And when
thinking,
he says concentrate to whisper, what he's really meaning is he has to concentrate to talk quietly because it's never a whisper.
No, I've got it. I reckon I can do it. I've got the whisper down.
That's the first time I've ever heard you whisper.
Normally it's like this.
Yeah, exactly. Normally
That's
it's
normally
just
my whisper.
Matt thinks this is whispering.
So in the middle of the Tivoli, in that 5 seconds of silence, I turned to Katie and said, "She's so damn cool." Like absolute classic words that you would say. Then that erupted people around us with a bunch of laughter. And I can't remember if Missy paid attention to it or whether she was thinking, what, get out.
Who's ruined this moment of serenity?
Just without thinking, she's so damn cool.
She's so damn cool. It was like he had a megaphone in his hand, though. The moment, it was so loud.
I was like, you've captured me in. You're the greatness of Missy. That's my remember the time. Done. Hit the pad. There we go. Second time lucky. And we're going to move straight in to, you know what time it is, Wallace.
Oh,
it's time for music pun of the week. Second week in a row running this one, and it's nice and short this week, so I'll get straight to it. What do you call a gingerbread man who's lost one leg?
I don't know. What do you call a gingerbread man who's lost one leg?
Limp Bizkit.
Matt promised me that I wouldn't groan at that. It's pretty good.
Yeah, see, there you go.
It's okay.
Think about it for a second. It's got to be music pun of the week.
I mean, I understand it. I understand it.
Music pun of the week. Let us know on the socials. Should we keep it going?
Do we give Matt a third round?
Now, on this is another little segment, and no, unfortunately, I don't have a thing ready. Maybe if this takes off. But I was thinking, when you're at high school and you're thinking, maybe they don't do it anymore because it's changed a lot in the last 70 years since we were there. But you used to do a lot of what would you rather? Would you rather this or this? Mm-hmm. It's a real thing. You have to pick one because this is like real.
Yeah.
I thought of one that's Missy based, and going back to the very, very first episode we did where you were explaining your favourite, put the stick down, your favourite gig you'd ever seen, which was Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
So this is, I'm interested to see if you can quickly answer this or whether you would find it very difficult.
Okay.
Would you rather never, ever be allowed to listen to any Mariah Carey ever again? So audio at a concert, anything, you just can never listen to her again, or never see Missy Higgins live again. So you can still listen to her, you can still watch DVDs, all of that, but you could just never experience her in a live performance again.
So to see Missy live once more, I'm never allowed to listen to Mariah Carey.
Yeah, you can just keep seeing Missy live, but it just means you're never allowed to listen or see or anything to do. Basically, Mariah Carey just doesn't exist in your world anymore. Unless you're at a party and this is stupid. This is great content. It was playing on a thing. But you're not allowed to go, Mariah Carey's done this big world tour coming up. Oh, I can't go.
I think I would forfeit Mariah Carey. I've seen her a few times. I think I would forfeit Mariah Carey because just listening to Missy on a CD is not enough. I need to go.
That was my thought. That would have been my guess because after you said that Missy, I think, is the pinnacle for me. So that's why I had to make it
I'd be too jealous because you would be going. If no one I knew was able to ever go, but if I knew people were there, I'd be far too jealous.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I'm assuming that would be your answer as well to
Well,
that.
obviously.
Would you rather?
I mean, what's a Mariah Carey?
What is a Mariah Carey?
I know she's got a voice of 10,000 angels.
She does.
But she's not someone on my rotation.
No, she was heavy 90s rotation for me. Very, very little rotation now.
So,
Yeah.
yes. Anyway, what would you rather? Done.
Bam. Okay. Well, let's see if we. I might see if I can come up with one for you, and then we'll see if we want to make that a thing or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll create a sound. One of us will create a sound when the other's not around.
Yeah. I mean, it'll probably be me because I'm pretty good at them now.
You are. Yeah. Should we get a bit serious before we end?
I think so. I think we want to do something. Not too serious, but slightly.
That sounded really weird, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like, let's get serious.
Let's get serious. We've got an intervention coming up right now. A little bit, because the podcast, it's loosely based on music. We like to throw in a little bit of a segment about something. This one's a little bit sort of technical, maybe you might say this week. We wanted to tell you a little bit about our songwriting process and how we both do that. And also because Matthew writes music with me, but he also writes music with Nathaniel for Alta Falls. And so we were going to do a little bit of a compare-contrast of how that looks. So I'll kick it off with how I prefer to write music. So basically, whenever Matthew and I have written a song together, pretty much almost exclusively this is how it works, is I will just be by myself at home, and my general pattern is that I just write a lot of poetry. So I might have an idea about something and I'll start to write a bunch of different lyrics around that idea. And then I would catch up with Matt, and sometimes Matt would say that, he'd thought of a riff or something or a chord progression that he was liking. And then we basically just sit there and he plays things over and over and over. And I think, well, which one of my poems might that sort of fit with? And then we work it from there. There was one time, though, when I was doing a lot of travel, and I remember Matt would have written, I think it was 4 or 5 songs, and Matt had written the music in its entirety, and he came over and met me. I was in London at the time, and he gave me, I think it must have been a CD in those days. He had recorded, and completely on opposite sides of the world, I then wrote to all of that music that he had written. And in that instance, I actually listened to all that music first, and some of it I felt fit with some words that I already had, and some of it I wrote completely new things because something about the music sort of brought that idea to me. So that was, a bunch of songs we wrote when we were both traveling, actually, sort of here, there and everywhere. So it's a very separate process for the bulk, and then it sort of comes together to fine tune it and see where it all fits. But some of those songs where Matt wrote, and it was whack. Some of the stuff he gave me, one of the songs he gave me had 3 different time signatures in it, I remember, and he just had this crazy idea and wrote it down. And some of that music is some of my favorite stuff that we've written, and we literally didn't sit in a room for any of it together. I wrote entirely separate to you, and then we came together and just played it, which was really super interesting for me.
The other thing, not jumping off track too far, but remember when we met up in London and I gave you that CD to write?
Yeah.
We also had, I can't remember any of the older songs, but we had older songs on a disc. And remember, for some, I have no idea why, when in Rome or in London, we went to... Were you there with us, or did I do it just with Jen?
No.
You were there?
Are you talking about Abbey Road
Studios?
Studios?
We were at Abbey Road. We're like, let's just do the whole tourist thing, like walking across the road. Oh, we're the Beatles. Yuck. And trying to create that, and we went into the studio and we don't know. We're just from Australia. Here's a CD. I mean, the good thing is we found out late, or we thought later, that it probably ended up in the bin, and hopefully one of the cleaners there were listening to some Aussie artists' demos. Yeah. But we did it. Just to say we did it. We wanted to do it. Yeah. Just to cross it off a bucket list item. Anyway, that was a random remember that time that popped up.
Matt
then.
had brought over. He was very excited to bring over to me this little CD of demos that he'd managed to put together and with a cute little cover on it. I remember giving it to a few people in Nashville as well.
There you go.
On my travels later
and yet
in that
here
trip.
we are, sitting on a couch in Brisbane still.
Yeah, fun times though.
Yes. So, yeah, Katie, you've nailed it on the head. I don't know if there's anything for me to add that you haven't covered. It is very much how we write. And it is actually very similar in some aspects as to how I write with Nathaniel as well.
Oh, cool.
I think
Okay.
the bottom line that we need to get to is that, and I said this in episode 1 as well, is I can't write a lyric to save my life. It is the struggle. I can have the ideas in my head come in of how I can envision a song to sound, and maybe that is more so how I write with Nathaniel.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we know that kind of that 80s indie electro pop genre that we've got going on, I can hear whether it's a some type of bass line, whether it's a synth line, even sometimes little bits of melody or syncopated rhythms, and I can sit down and write basically a rough skeleton, call it, of a song as best I can on a piano and try. And normally with Nathaniel, it might have me talking through it, like being like, I think this would be a good verse, and I like how this dun, 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 here bit would work here, and I think this would be a great chorus. But very similar. I would then send that to him. Generally, we're in 2 different spaces. I just send him the recording that I've done, and him and I have a pretty good relationship, similar to what you and I would have with writing, where we just taken off the cards any reason to be offended by anything. We want to make sure that a song is that we're both happy and we both believe that it's the best it can be, and we're not, there's no doubts on it. So Nathaniel can very quickly come back and say, I love it, I think that's great, let me start looking at some melody and maybe some story ideas that we can work on. Or he'll come back and say, yeah, let's just don't think so. Maybe that's a bit of an old style or something like that. And don't worry, he gets it the other way as well. But we have a very good writing relationship there. So he will start with generally the story from the lyrical side of things of what it's going to take. Where we've changed a little bit in the last probably 6 to 12 months, even a little bit longer, basically since Elder Falls, this second EP we did, was we will spend a lot of time working on melodies together. So we will generally then sit in a room and, again, just around a piano, start playing, trying to write these melodies. And even sometimes the melodies come before the lyrics. It's really 50-50. Sometimes Nathaniel can have the idea ready to go and it'll just we'll find a melody that fits it. Other times it'll be, well, we really love that melody, so how can we fit the lyrics to that? But yeah, basically I would say our songwriting is pretty much 50-50 when it comes to that. So very similar as to how you and I write, although you and I haven't written for many, many years.
Yeah, and aside from the cabaret, it's been about a decade.
Yeah, it's been a very long time. We should revisit that at some point soon and just write some songs for the sake of writing songs. But it then, like, again, Nathaniel is very, very used to me doing what I did with you as well, and that's I love a harmony or 10. And so basically working out how, well, if the melody, is that going to allow for
a 7-part harmony?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Could an African choir sing this? And will it sound amazing? Excellent. It ticks a box.
We always have to leave the door open to the extra 3 parts.
So how you and I write and how Nathaniel and I write, yes, there's some differences, but overall I would say it's very, very similar.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good way of writing.
I feel just incredibly lucky to have met someone like you, and my friend Joy in Canada, who plays guitar, who I've done a lot of writing with as well. Very similar process with her, and I do feel incredibly lucky, probably in the same way as you feel lucky with what you're doing with Nathaniel, who is a beautiful poet, in my opinion, as well. And when I say as well, I wasn't saying that I'm a beautiful poet. I was saying, as well as being a wonderful musician, he is also an incredible lyricist and very, very poetic. I think that, I just know that I couldn't have had any outlet for any of these words that I've written without having met wonderful musicians. So I can write a song on a guitar and, but that's never how that song will end up being performed because I am not, good enough.
You've got to give yourself
instrument.
credit for writing some brilliant lyrics because you have that piece of gold where you fit the word language and were able to break that up into a 3-syllable word.
Language.
Yes. And I think to this day, that's some top shelf writing.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to pull stuff like that together.
It was 2. Everyone's only ever known it as 2.
Yeah.
But I think it needed that extra syllable.
Yeah.
Language.
Yeah. I like to add where I can.
So, yes, that's a little bit of the backstory behind how Katie and I write music, how myself and Nathaniel, again, self-plug for the band, Alta Falls. If you are not listening to us or you haven't listened to us yet, I would love you to. ALTA, Alta, and then Falls, FALLS. There is also, if you're on our Instagram, I've put a cheeky little bio line in there that says Matt's band, and I linked to Alta Falls.
Beautiful.
I didn't quite ask permission from you. I just did it. I'll let that fly. But yes, we'd love you to check us out. We're heading on tour a little bit later this year, and I can't wait to play some shows and share the music that we've been working really hard on. So, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, grab tickets. It's going to be excellent. I will be at either the Sydney or the Melbourne show or both because I am otherwise engaged for the Brisbane date.
I think that's it. Are we done?
I think we've done
We're
well.
at the bottom of the whiteboard. We've covered everything.
I've got no more notes.
You've got no more little hidden surprises to bring out? Nothing on there that you haven't even bothered putting on the whiteboard?
No more surprises from me.
We're keen to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. Episode 3, we're 3 in. Want some more feedback on Music Pun of the Week. Want your feedback on the sound that Katie has created for Remember That Time.
Yeah.
We can't trademark Remember That Time, as we found out. Might not be the first people to think about that.
No.
But yeah, look, that's it. If you've got any questions or anything like that, eventually what we'll do is we'll have a website where you can fill out a form and that. If you want to email us, you can do that as well. You can send it to hello@skipthebeat.com or send us a DM on Instagram is also another way that you can do it, and we'll respond. So any questions, any feedback you want to give.
And we'd love you to please follow us on all the socials
Yes.
because at the moment we're sort of I'm particularly using my personal account to try and reach people, and I'd love for this little community to just be on its own little page. So please follow us on the socials. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow our podcast on whichever app that you are using to listen to it so that those apps will just automatically drop into your phone each week. That
Write
would
a
be
review.
huge.
That'd be really appreciated. Only, of course, if it's a 5-star.
That's right. But please, all of those things, if you're enjoying what we're doing, we would love to start to build a bit of momentum, I guess, so that we can connect and do the things that you're wanting us to do.
And keep doing it weekly, apparently.
I guess so.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, have a wonderful week. We will see you next week for the weekly podcast of Skip the Beat, a podcast loosely based on music. Bye for now.
Ciao.